So we're back for Series 3 of George Goes Dairy Farming. This time we're down in the Rebel County speaking to 18-time All-Ireland wedding medalist Briege Corkery.
AgriNet makes it effortless, really. You know, I suppose there's no papers lying around, no prescriptions gone missing. It just makes life much easier.
Briege Corkery is there first, being chased by Vivian,
Hey, how are things? How are you doing, George?
Good. So Briege, thanks a million for having us down here today. Yourself and Diarmuid have a little bit of an unconventional route into dairying. Maybe talk us how you got there. How did it all start? How did a beef farmer and a dairy woman end up here milking this many cows?
No, that's the queer love story starting off anyway. Yeah, so look, I suppose we were dairy farming at home, grew up on a dairy farm. I was always very interested in it. I'd always do the cows. Met Diarmuid, and maybe a Sunday evening when he'd call over, I might have to be doing the cows, so he'd come out and give me a hand. But I suppose it wasn't until we went travelling to Australia and New Zealand, I was very keen on going onto the farms there and seeing what it's all about. And yeah, Diarmuid fell in love with farming. He came from a beef background, sheep. In Cooley, I suppose it was never on his radar to go dairy farming. Fell in love with it, came home from New Zealand, and that was his first thing to do, was apply for a farming job. So he went in as a helper for spring with a farmer in Crookstown, Mike Bateman. And look, he was fierce lucky. We were both fierce lucky that Mike started tutoring him, sent him off on his green cert, and the rest ended up here then. And we started share milking with Mike in 2015. We built up stock, and then this farm came up and we took a jump at it. We never saw ourselves farming when we started going out first. You know, things are working out well for us. The farm here in Ballincollig has really, you know, it's been very good for us.
And when you were travelling in New Zealand, was there anything in particular that you saw over there that you wanted to bring back here and just kind of like, oh, that'll work well?
It was Diarmuid brought most of the knowledge home from New Zealand. I suppose I just wanted to go milking cows, and that was kind of, I suppose that was my job at home when I was younger, was just milking cows. Whereas when Diarmuid landed over to New Zealand, he learnt so much that, like, I suppose I wouldn't have even asked the questions for, you know.
He out-dared you.
Yeah. So, like, you know, I suppose I was supposed to be the experienced one going in, and it ended up Diarmuid coming out with way more knowledge because he asked the questions and stuff like that. So I suppose definitely I suppose the calving system that they have, the compact calving and stuff like that, that was the start of it.
So talk a little bit about the cows. How many are you milking here now?
So yeah, we're all year, I suppose, milking 225 around. I think we calved down about 230 a little bit with it. And just after drying off, just over 40 there now, so things are starting to quieten down.
You've 40 dried off now. When will the whole herd be dry?
15 to 18 December.
And tell me the million-dollar question, a selective dry cow, have you started?
Yeah, sure, I suppose we started off with any ones that need a little bit of extra care, any ones that are a little bit thin, that they need a little bit of time off and recuperate, high cell count, different things like that, we're trying to dry them off and stuff like that. So
you've mentioned you're drying off there at the moment. What tools are you using to help you with that?
We use the AgriNet app and select a dry cow. There's the green tick is beside it, and off we go. So it's great help for us, and you know, it was something that it's a very handy tool to have.
I suppose are you working full time? Diarmuid out here, babies, there's a lot of paperwork involved. Do you find that that's less now?
Yeah, I suppose registering calves, stuff like that, as soon as they're done, as soon as they're calved, you can do it there and then straight away. There's no need to write on a piece of paper, and the piece of paper drops into down into the slurry tank or something like that, and you're like, damn it, which does happen. So yeah, it takes an awful lot of that out of it. The job is done there and then, so it's great to have all that done.
So we've started doing a small bit of selected dry cow therapy this year. So with the AgriNet, you just pull out the phone, and you can see the green tick or the red tick or the blue tick, and she's a green tick. Then we just go in with sealer, and if she's a red tick, then we start to go in with antibiotics. Like that, we are dipping our toe on selected dry cow therapy, but it's coming down the line. So I would say that new addition to the app has been very helpful because it's just there in front of you. So when we're weighing cows, using the app again to you just weigh the cow, you punch it in, and it's there. Look at you again. You know, it's saved, and you have a bank of information then behind you. So we run a compact calving here, trying to have 90% of cows calved by Patrick's Day is the general rule of thumb we have here. And the minute the calf's dropped, you tag it and bag it, and it's just great there. You pull out the app again, and you just do it there and then, and it's done, and it's gone away, and the blue card lands 2 days later. So it's just a gift for that.
And tell us, do you use it for your Borbia audits at all?
Yeah, we would. So I suppose if we buy anything from the vets or anything like that, we throw it straight into the app, and it's there when the Borbia comes, we can just send it on to him and he cross-checks it. So it just makes life very easy that way. You know, we all know with paperwork, I suppose I put a folder into Diarmuid's Jeep, and the paperwork never seems to get into the folder. So that's where, you know...
Well, it's easy to pass the blame then.
So yeah, I think the herd app works great.
Keeps everything together for you.
Yeah.
You're also a county hurler, or camogie player, I should say. So time management, like between yourself and Diarmuid, kids, farming, how do you balance it? How did you balance it?
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, fado. I suppose before I finished up with county, we didn't have the kids when I suppose I was at it for years, and then I took a break and I had Tyke and went back for 2 years. Sorry. It is quite difficult, you know. I suppose you're not guaranteed to be in the door at 6 o'clock every evening, so a lot of time I'd have to take Tyke to camogie training with me when I had him. But before that, I suppose we were at Mike's for a lot of my inter-county days. We'd be out the yard till 6:15 running home out the door to training. There could be little residue of cows on my face, but we were flying to training, I'd get a mocking. But
It sounded like a stressful time trying to do it all, but what was your relief? Was it the cows or was it the camogie? Which was the de-stressor?
I'm not too sure. The hardest part was, I suppose, coming home after training on a Sunday morning, especially during the spring. You'd have to change your clothes again, go out the yard, and you know, it could be 2 showers a day sometimes, maybe. You know, it depends on how training was and stuff. So that was probably the hardest part, was Sundays, and Sunday evening milkings aren't my favourite anyway. So that probably made that a little bit harder again.
There's a lot achieved to this point, and I suppose yourself and Diarmuid as a team have done that together. Where do you see yourselves now in the next chapter, the next 10 years?
Most importantly, that we're happy and that, you know, we're sufficient enough to keep ourselves going, and that's probably the most important thing. I think in farming, years can be very different. You just can't tell. Price of milk will change. Fertiliser's gone through the roof. You know, I think we're quite happy with our number of cows we have now. It gives us a balanced lifestyle, and I think that's probably the most important thing for us.
I think there's a lot of couples, a lot of people, young men, young women, at the start of their journey. They're leaving ag college, they're on their tickets booked to New Zealand or Australia. They're at the very, very start of it.
Yeah.
And I suppose even those who don't have farms of their own, and they're looking down and they see the likes of you guys who have managed to get the cows, get the farm, have it all. I mean, and you're halfway through your journey. What advice would you give them?
We never thought we'd be into dairy farming. It was something, I was the second youngest of 10 children. So I was saying I'd never be a farmer, which was something that really disappointed me unless I was to marry one. What I would say to them is find the right people. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because even just, you know, listening to Diarmuid coming home from New Zealand, he was far more knowledgeable than I was, just from asking questions and not being afraid to ask. You know, I suppose I was nearly afraid to ask because I was supposed to know, because I had the background. So, you know, try and get in with people you know. Don't be afraid to talk to people that have been successful in farming and stuff like that. And you're never fully knowledgeable. We're always learning, and I would have always said that on the pitch as well, that, you know, you're never the best, you're never perfect at everything. You're always going to have to change little things bit by bit. So just constantly talking to people, I think, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Farming is a physical job. Camogie, there has to be some kind of crossover.
You have to work hard to get the right results, first of all. You know, you have to be there all the time. you know, you have to be committed. That's the same for farming. I'd be either 100% in or I wouldn't be in at all. I even find it hard going out full-time working and coming back onto the farm. I even find that hard at times. I suppose as well, the physical fitness coming from the farm into training was, you know, the girls were in the gym for a couple of years ever before I had to do the gym. Huge benefits really, like.
And no better woman than Briege Corkery to run onto it and one-on-one.
I suppose some days there when you lose you know, if you lost championship or whatever, you can look back on your year and say, right, okay, I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right. It's the same out here at the yard. You know, we could have focused more on the cows. We could have, you know, who should we have dried off earlier? Who should we have maybe sent away earlier? Different things like that. Should we have brought in more? You know, little things that you can look back and so it gives you, you know, it helps you to reflect on what has passed and to improve for the future.
Do you see a future in dairying? Is it a positive industry to be involved in?
I would definitely think it's positive to be involved in. It's a lovely lifestyle if you make it the way it is, make it a lifestyle for you. Find the balance between life and work. You know, don't be afraid to give yourselves days off. You know, I think maybe the old type of farming before you couldn't take a day off because you'd be seen that you were not working hard enough, whereas I think, you know, we're gone down to 13 times a week milking, Sunday evenings off with the last couple of weeks, and it just gives us a lovely lifestyle on a Sunday evening.
Oh, Briege, listen, it's been great to take time out of your busy life to chat to us and tell us a bit about your journey, and really appreciate it.
Perfect, no bother. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Well, Cork was always going to win that.